Everyone dreams of building an empire, but very few people understand that history's greatest empires were rarely destroyed by powerful enemies. Most of them collapsed because of the decisions made by the men who built them. And perhaps no one understood that truth better than Niccolò Machiavelli 500 years ago. Italy wasn't the unified nation you know today. It was a battlefield of rival city-states. Florence, Venice, Milan, Naples, Rome. Every ruler wanted more land. Every alliance was temporary. Today's trusted friend could become tomorrow's greatest enemy. Power wasn't inherited. It was hunted. It was stolen. It was defended with blood. And in the middle of this brutal political chaos, one man quietly watched everything. He wasn't a king. He wasn't a general. He didn't command an army. He carried no sword. Yet he possessed something that many rulers never did, a deep understanding of human nature. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli. Some remember him as a philosopher. Others call him a diplomat. Many still believe he was the most dangerous political thinker in history. But Machiavelli wasn't obsessed with power. He was obsessed with understanding why powerful men always seem to lose it. Because during his lifetime, he watched kingdoms rise, only to crumble from within. He saw brilliant rulers destroy themselves. He witnessed ambitious leaders mistake confidence for invincibility. And after years of watching men fight for thrones, he reached one unforgettable conclusion. Building an empire isn't the hardest part. Keeping it alive is. And that lesson began with one extraordinary man, a man whose ambition fascinated Machiavelli more than anyone else. His name was Cesare Borgia, the man who seemed impossible to defeat at the beginning of the 16th century. If there was one name that inspired fear across Italy, it was Cesare Borgia. He wasn't feared because he was the strongest. He was feared because he was unpredictable. His enemies never knew whether he would negotiate, smile, forgive, or eliminate them before sunrise. Every move felt calculated. Every decision seemed deliberate. Nothing about him appeared accidental. When Machiavelli was sent on diplomatic missions, he spent months observing Borgia up close. He watched him negotiate. He watched him command armies. He watched powerful men obey him without question. For a moment, it seemed as though Cesare Borgia had mastered the art of power itself. Even Machiavelli admired his intelligence. Years later, when he wrote The Prince, many of Borgia's strategies became examples of political brilliance. But history has a cruel habit. The moment a man begins believing he cannot lose, history starts preparing his downfall. And Cesare Borgia was no exception. The first warning one evening, after witnessing another political betrayal, Machiavelli wrote an observation that would shape everything he believed afterward. Not every enemy carries a sword. Sometimes, your greatest enemy lives inside your own mind. Most people believe power changes a person. Machiavelli disagreed. Power doesn't create character. It reveals it. If you're disciplined, power makes you even stronger. If you're patient, power becomes your greatest weapon. But if you're ruled by pride, power will magnify that pride until it destroys everything you've built. That's why Machiavelli believed the first battle is never against another king. The first battle is against yourself. Because a man who cannot control his emotions will eventually lose control of his empire. Think about history. How many rulers destroyed themselves because of anger? How many kings trusted the wrong people because of arrogance? How many leaders confused fear with respect or confidence with wisdom? Again and again, the pattern repeated itself. Not because their enemies became stronger, but because they stopped controlling themselves. The moment your emotions begin making your decisions, you've already surrendered your greatest advantage. And once your enemies learn how you React. They no longer have to defeat you. They simply have to provoke you. That is why the most dangerous leaders in history were rarely the loudest. While everyone else panicked, they observed. While others reacted, they calculated. Silence became their greatest weapon. Patience became their greatest defense. But even the brilliant Cesare Borgia failed to escape one fatal mistake, a mistake so devastating that it erased years of carefully built power, almost overnight. And when Machiavelli witnessed what happened next, he realized something that would become his second warning, a warning that every ambitious person still needs to hear today. Part 2. Power doesn't disappear overnight. It decays. Quietly. Patiently. Almost invisibly. And by the time most rulers realize it's slipping away, it's already too late. When Machiavelli watched the rise of Cesare Borgia, he believed he was witnessing the birth of a ruler who could unite Italy. Borgia had intelligence. He had fearless soldiers. He had influence inside the church. And more importantly, he understood that fear could control people faster than love. Everything seemed perfect until fate changed the rules. In the summer of 1503, Pope Alexander VI, the father who had given Borgia his greatest political advantage, suddenly died. Within days, the foundation of Borgia's empire began to crack. The allies who once praised him became silent. The men who once feared him started making new alliances. The doors that had always been open quietly closed. Power hadn't made Borgia weak. It had made him dependent. And dependence is something Machiavelli believed every ambitious person should fear. The second warning: never build your empire on borrowed power. After watching Borgia collapse, Machiavelli wrote something that most people still ignore today. A wise ruler builds power that belongs to himself, not power borrowed from others. Think about it. Borgia wasn't defeated in battle. He wasn't outsmarted by a stronger general. He wasn't even betrayed by his closest commanders. He simply built too much of his future on one man, his father. The moment that pillar disappeared, everything else followed. Machiavelli never forgot that lesson. Because he realized, the strongest prison isn't made of iron. It's made of dependence. Dependence on one investor, one client, one relationship, one job, one opportunity, one source of income, one person's approval. The moment your future depends on something you don't control, your freedom begins to disappear. That's why truly powerful people always build leverage, not dependence. If one opportunity disappears, another already exists. If one door closes, they've already built 3 more. Because real power isn't having one strong foundation. It's having several. History repeats the same mistake. Centuries after Borgia, Napoleon Bonaparte made a similar mistake. He conquered Europe, won impossible battles, built one of history's greatest military empires. People believed he couldn't lose. Perhaps he believed it too. Success slowly creates a dangerous illusion. It whispers, You're different. The rules no longer apply to you. And that illusion has destroyed more empires than any enemy ever could. The higher a leader climbs, the easier it becomes to mistake temporary success for permanent security. History has never rewarded that kind of arrogance. Not Caesar, not Napoleon, not Borgia, not anyone. Because history doesn't care who you were yesterday. It only cares whether you're prepared for tomorrow. The third warning: success is the beginning of the real test. Most people believe success is the finish line. Machiavelli believed it's the starting line. Because before success, you're hungry, you're careful, you observe everything, you question every decision. But after success, something changes. Comfort arrives. Confidence becomes certainty. Certainty becomes pride. And pride slowly blinds you. That's exactly why so many rulers collapsed. Not while climbing, but after reaching the top. When nobody challenges you, you stop challenging yourself. When everyone applauds you, you stop listening to criticism. When every decision succeeds, you begin believing every future decision will succeed too. That's when mistakes become expensive. The most dangerous moment in any empire isn't during war. It's during peace. Because peace convinces leaders that the battle is over. Machiavelli knew better. The battle never ends. The battlefield simply changes. Today, your enemy might not be another king. It could be comfort, distraction, ego, complacency, or the belief that you finally made it. That's why the wisest leaders never celebrate for too long. While everyone else enjoys the victory, they're already preparing for the next challenge. Because they understand something most people never do. Success isn't something you own. It's something you must earn again, every single day. But there was one lesson, even greater than discipline, greater than strategy, greater than ambition itself. A lesson Machiavelli discovered after watching countless rulers fall, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they completely misunderstood the people standing closest to them. And that lesson would become one of his most dangerous warnings. Every empire eventually reaches a moment when enemies outside the walls no longer matter, because the greatest danger is already sitting inside. Machiavelli understood something that most rulers learned too late. Kingdoms rarely fall because of powerful enemies. They fall because someone close enough to whisper learns how to manipulate the king. History is full of rulers who spent years preparing for war, but never prepared for betrayal. And that brings us to Machiavelli's most dangerous warning. The fourth warning: choose your inner circle like you choose your battlefield. After Cesare Borgia's fall, Machiavelli spent years asking himself one question. How can a brilliant ruler lose everything so quickly? The answer wasn't simple. It wasn't one battle. It wasn't one mistake. It was the people around him. Power attracts two kinds of people. The first want to build your empire with you. The second want to inherit it. The problem is, they often look exactly the same. Both smile. Both agree with you. Both promise loyalty. But only one remains loyal. When your power disappears. Machiavelli warned rulers never to trust words. Trust behavior. Because loyalty isn't tested during victory. It's tested during uncertainty. History proved him right. Even Julius Caesar, one of history's greatest military geniuses, wasn't defeated by a foreign army. He wasn't defeated on the battlefield. He was surrounded by men he considered friends. One of them was Brutus, the man Caesar trusted, the man history remembers forever, not because he was the strongest, but because he stood close enough to betray him. That day changed Rome forever, and Machiavelli never ignored that lesson. The closer someone stands to power, the more carefully they should be observed. The fifth warning: never become predictable. Most people think honesty means revealing everything. Machiavelli believed something different. He believed predictability creates weakness. If your enemies always know your next move, they don't need to fight you. They simply wait. Every great military commander understood surprise. Alexander the Great, Hannibal, Napoleon. They rarely attacked where everyone expected, because uncertainty creates fear. Fear creates hesitation, and hesitation wins wars. The same principle applies today. Don't announce every goal. Don't reveal every strategy. Don't seek validation before results. Move quietly. Build quietly. Win quietly. The louder your ambitions become, the easier they are to stop. Machiavelli wasn't teaching deception. He was teaching discipline. Because silence is often more powerful than explanation. Sometimes your greatest advantage is allowing people to underestimate you. The sixth warning: success creates enemies you never asked for. The higher you climb, the fewer people truly celebrate your success. That isn't hatred. It's human nature. Machiavelli noticed something strange. The moment one person becomes powerful, everyone else begins comparing themselves. Comparison creates jealousy. Jealousy creates resentment. Resentment creates opposition. Not because you've harmed anyone, but because your success reminds them of what they failed to become. Marcus Aurelius once ruled the most powerful empire on earth. Yet he reminded himself every morning that criticism was unavoidable. He knew trying to please everyone would eventually destroy his judgment. Machiavelli believed exactly the same thing. Never chase universal approval. It has never existed. Lead with wisdom. Accept criticism. Ignore envy. Continue building. Because every meaningful leader eventually discovers that significance always creates resistance. The final warning: build something that can survive without you. This, according to Machiavelli, is the difference between success and legacy. Anyone can build a business. Few build a system. Anyone can gather followers. Few create future leaders. Many rulers wanted history to remember their names. The greatest rulers wanted history to remember their ideas. Because names disappear, principles survive. Empires survive. Think about Rome. Thousands of years have passed. Its emperors are gone. Its soldiers are gone. Its palaces have fallen. Yet its laws, its military strategies, its political influence still shape the modern world. That is legacy. Machiavelli understood something most ambitious people never realize. If everything depends on you, then everything dies with you. True leadership isn't proving you're irreplaceable. True leadership is creating something that no longer needs you. Teach people, build systems, create standards, develop leaders. Because the strongest empire isn't the one with the strongest king. It's the one that continues growing long after the king is gone. Conclusion. If Machiavelli were sitting across from you today, he probably wouldn't ask how much money you make or how many people follow you. He would ask something far more important. Can you control yourself before trying to control the world? Can you remain disciplined when success makes arrogance feel easy? Can you recognize loyalty before betrayal teaches you the difference? Can you build something that outlives your own ambition? Because history has already answered these questions. Again, and again, and again. Every empire that collapsed ignored at least one of these warnings. Every lasting legacy respected them. So before you chase power, before you chase wealth, before you chase influence, remember the man who spent his entire life watching kings rise, only to watch them fall. Niccolò Machiavelli wasn't trying to teach people how to become feared. He was trying to teach them how not to destroy themselves after becoming powerful. The greatest enemy you'll ever face will rarely stand in front of you. Most of the time, he'll be staring back at you from the mirror. If you enjoyed this journey into the mind of Machiavelli, subscribe for more stories where history, psychology, and strategy reveal timeless lessons about power, leadership, and human nature. Because history doesn't just tell us what happened, it quietly teaches us what happens next to those who refuse to learn from it.